I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
Well, look, this has been a rough week. The turkeys are not cooperating.
Yeah, the turkeys are not cooperating, and that's the main problem right now. But we're getting towards the end of the season. Is the honeysuckle blooming?
It's in full bloom.
It's in full bloom. You know, it's a little wind down. It's crazy how, 1 week ago, they were hot as a firecracker, and then it's like a switch turns off.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten a picture of a hen in, a week and a half?
Mm-hmm.
I think most of them are just straight up sitting on the nest full time.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Well, we always, it seems like we bring up wives' tales all the time. That the honeysuckle is one when you can smell that honeysuckle blooming.
We need to come up with a native plant instead of an invasive plant for that.
For an indicator?
Yeah.
An indicator species. That's true.
Hey,
So that would be your wheelhouse.
All right, I'll work on that.
Yeah, there you go.
I just kind of think a honeysuckle is
It is. It's here to stay. You ain't
good.
making that one go away.
I love honeysuckle.
I like it.
What do you like so much about it?
Well, as a kid, I would pull those little things.
And get the
Yeah,
little
they
beads
smell
of
good.
nectar off of it. Yeah. And it's, I know it's invasive, but isn't it a pretty good deer forage?
They love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I don't think baby birds like to run around in it, but
Two tangles.
Yeah, it's here. Another one that is invasive that is here to stay that's pretty good for wildlife is Brazil vervain. So
Thank you, Mr.
put that in your,
Thank you.
Put that in your
Richie.
pocket.
Yeah.
All right, let me set the table today. We've got a couch full of folks over there.
Yeah.
We got two guys from Nutrien that are experts in the subject matter we're going to talk about. Twinky Estes has been here before.
Yes,
Twinky's
he is.
kind of a legend with the company and a legend in the Golden Triangle area.
In the Golden Triangle area. Probably, a good east side of Mississippi is pretty legendary.
Yeah, he really is. Twinky, at one time, legend has it, threw a wild pig in the window at maybe a fast food joint here in West Point. Is that true or false?
That was not me, but that was one of my counterparts.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
No names. We won't mention any
No
names.
names.
All right. And sitting,
But it did make the national news.
National news.
Yeah, sure did. Put West Point on the map.
How about that? So sitting next to him, another Nutrien guy who is a calibration specialist, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, spraying.
Yes.
That's good. It's the time of year to talk about spraying for sure.
Lanny, I'm just glad you're in between us because he's so big, he looks like he could squeeze the life out of you. And,
He needs to. He could, I imagine.
Yeah. So, look, if I say anything offensive.
They're making that couch look like a love seat over there.
Yeah, so,
Come on, man.
You need to watch your mouth, Bobby.
Well, we've got Mr. Bryson Whitmon.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
And
Local guys, too.
I just wish y'all would have made Twinky's head a little bit bigger
Yeah.
with his introduction.
We can't have
The
an autograph
legend.
section after.
There we go.
The legend.
he's
over
got a
here.
bright shirt on over there.
That term's used very loosely.
And I'm looking at both of y'all. How many oysters had to die for you guys to have buttons on y'all's shirt?
Come on, man. You never know when you need to come out of your shirt.
That's right.
That's right.
About as
some
much
fancy
material that had
buttons.
to cover that bald spot on that head, Bobby.
All right. So we got Lanny here, Dudley's here, Toxie
John's
is
here.
missing in
Yeah,
action.
Toxi's MIA. Where's Mitchell? Where's Rob? What's going on? Richie? Where have you sent them? You got them out in the field?
Well, I didn't send them anywhere, I guess. But, yeah, they are on the field. Yeah, Rob and Mitch are down in Florida filming with Dr. Lashley on his one of
On
his
the Polt study?
Yep, on the Polt study. And we've been hearing some great feedback from them. And we're just waiting, excited to see what they bring back. So
That's a true hero right there. Working during turkey season.
Well,
Yeah.
working with turkeys down there.
What-
And I think they got some photos of some baby
Yeah, we
turkeys.
saw little teasers. Man, it's really cool what they're doing down there.
Yeah.
The Polt's hatching.
yeah,
all
the
that kind of
timing of
stuff.
it, you don't really get, you can't wait.
Right.
They pop out when they pop out. So
John Tatum's here. Glad you're here, John.
John
You look
Tatum.
Excited.
So, a little quick fact about John. Did you know John went to school at Mississippi State?
Did you pass?
Quit.
Quit. Okay. All right.
But he went to school at Mississippi State on guess what kind of scholarship that
I heard this the other day.
Yeah.
Was it dancing?
it was dancing. Weren't you? Oh, wait, no, it wasn't dancing, Bobby.
It was band.
Yes.
What instrument did you play?
Did not go to Mississippi State on a band scholarship.
Oh, well. Who told us that?
You told me. So.
Did you play an instrument in college?
Junior college.
Junior college, so that's what it is.
Can you play the horns for us so we could re-record that and you play the
If
horns?
I had one.
See, I told you, we
How about
have a
that?
musician. You've been wanting somebody to play
the-
live music in the studio, and he's sitting right there.
How about that? Well, you know how like a lot of these talk shows had bands.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be really cool if we had a band in here.
He's probably
John and I took forestry classes together, and we both didn't last very long, but he didn't last quite as long as I did.
oh,
Well, how about that?
But we were probably the most knowledgeable people in the class.
Kind of like a
Just gonna throw that out there.
just going to throw that out
Yeah,
there.
okay.
Just
Well,
ain't good at taking tests.
So while we're talking about everybody, so Mitchell went with me on his first little assignment a couple
Oh,
of
in
weeks ago.
Tennessee. On that. On where you,
We stayed at a hotel that was so rough. We both slept with pistols that night.
All
And-
right.
And I'm picturing
In
him
the same bed?
No, it is.
Okay.
But I'm picturing him. He's probably texting his girlfriend or maybe his mama or his daddy, going, "Oh my
what
God,
have I gotten into?
I'm having to sleep with a pistol on the first trip." So anyway, it was pretty rough.
But it
little
turned out
place.
good, though.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Sure did. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to get really serious and explain how a guy can calibrate his sprayer, because you don't want to put out too much chemistry or chemicals on your plot or not enough. Right. And there's right ways and wrong ways to do this. And I mean, the mathematical way they taught you at Mississippi State, we want to learn that way, and then just the
Well, these
simple
guys
ways.
come from a precision ag world. You know, Nutrien has, is one of the leaders in those fields, and there is a little bit of translation between that precision ag world and wildlife farming. So, be good to spend-
I can't tell you how many times I've told people on the phone, this isn't precision agriculture.
Right, yeah. But what they do is precision
on the same
agriculture.
note, what's wrong with knowing exactly how to properly do it?
Yeah, 100%. And just like, with all gamekeeping, every year you do something, the next year you're going back, you want to do it a little better. It's just part of the grind. So
Learn as you go.
learn as you go. That's right.
We've been real impressed with Nutrien from top to bottom.
Yes.
You guys are. It's an impressive company, and what y'all are doing for the world, really.
Yes,
and
sir.
we just recently met Jeff Tarsi, and what a character he
Yeah.
I tell you, he's one of a kind.
One of the best.
Yeah, he fit up right on in around here.
is. Yeah, he did. He didn't miss a beat.
Just a good old boy, but he can get way above your head real quick.
I bet,
He-
yeah.
He knows a lot.
Yeah, him and Tykes were sitting on the couch, and I was like, woof.
Yeah, I hadn't met Jeff yet, but he's from one of my very favorite towns in the state of
Cleveland.
Mississippi, and he's a huge Mississippi State fan.
Go Dogs.
And so
Who knows?
That's right.
He's a character. I was going
Yeah.
to say that. He's a lot of fun. So, all right. So, look, why don't we start with, you got some rapid fires for the boys?
I do.
Why don't we start there, and we'll turn this over to you and
I
get
didn't
that
study
kicked.
for no test now.
Yeah. It just get a little quick
It's,
question.
I'm
to
going to
get know
ask you a
little
few
better.
technical questions.
All right.
All right.
Well, I'll give you an answer if I've got it.
Dry ribs or wet ribs?
Dry ribs.
Dry ribs.
What's more fun, prep and planting or managing the crop to harvest?
Prep and planting.
Managing the crop to harvest.
You're at a fish fry. Do you put fillets or fish on the bone on your plate?
Fillets.
Filet.
Are you OCD about cleaning your guns, or are you a wipe it off on occasion and maybe clean it every once in a while, deep clean it?
Spray a heel co-lube and keep rolling.
Same.
Hate to ask this during turkey season, but what is your favorite feather to hunt? Doves, turkey, or waterfowl?
Doves.
Doves and ducks.
Name your favorite gas station to get a lunch plate at
Texaco north side.
on Sundays, right?
So,
Yeah,
yes.
chicken and dressing.
I just got introduced to that, by the way. No, that's the real deal.
They don't play.
It's good, and you got to get there before it's gone too.
You better be there about 10:45.
Yeah, that's hilarious. What agricultural crop intrigues you the most?
Cotton.
Cotton.
Okay. You had a successful turkey hunt on a beautiful Saturday morning. What would you rather do that afternoon? Go to the lake or the river, or go to an SEC baseball game?
Lake or river.
SEC baseball game.
Heck yeah. Do you keep a clean and organized desk and truck, or do you feel more productive or comfortable being just a bit messy?
Bit messy.
Unfortunately.
Einstein was real messy.
See,
so.
that's what I'm trying to aspire to be.
What is the busiest time of year for what you do?
Springtime.
Right now, today.
And you're taking a whole day to podcast with us. We appreciate that. Okay. Your great uncle passes on to heaven and leaves you with the first choice for one of his 3 shotguns. What do you choose?
Well, I don't know if it's an option, but I'll just tell you Browning A5.
Okay, that was going to be the first.
Belgian.
Humpback Belgian Browning?
Yeah.
There it is.
Old nickel steel Winchester Model 12 or an early standard weight Remington 870?
Remington 1187.
Yeah.
Same gun, just automatic. Old standard weight 1187.
Yep.
Good answers, guys. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, you did put a lot of work into those.
I feel like we just
Good
passed
job,
the
Doug.
test to
Yeah.
join a Facebook group.
All right, Dudley, why don't you ask him the first question?
I just asked him 12 questions in a row.
All right, Lanny, you want to ask the first question?
Yeah, I mean, now's the time, for spraying. I mean, if you can just give us a general introduction. I've heard you talk a lot. Y'all both talk a lot about chemicals. Just some basics about spraying is the best way to put it.
Oh, I would say before we even start talking about calibration, we should touch on the importance of calibration. One, save you money
Hey, that's
because
always good.
you don't waste money on overpouring your chemicals. Two, that way you pull up to a 10-acre field. If you don't know how your sprayer's calibrated, you don't know how much water, if you need to tote extra water with you, or if I got enough, or how much chemical. And by having your sprayer calibrated, it really, on your rates, you don't, like I said, you don't overpour, but you don't underpour and create resistance by, a weaker dose of chemicals kind of stuff.
That's something that we as hunters don't think about as much, that we owe to our farming friends, is to try to keep that resistance at bay.
Right.
And that happens from applying too much chemical?
Too little.
Too little.
So
Too little.
You hit it. It takes and takes that Roundup or whatever in, but it's not a lethal dose. So
Build resistance.
It builds immunity or resistance, and it's just that's that, and we see a huge problem with that in a lot of our weed species. When Roundup first come out, it was a silver bullet. You spray it, killed everything, and now sometimes Roundup you spray it and it's like it's just a surfactant at the end.
Glorified grass killer.
Yeah, I mean it's
We hear about people talk about it doesn't touch pigweed, and then
Right.
What else does it not seem to?
Italian ryegrass that has become, in our part of the world, a huge problem here lately. In the past several years, I would say, Roundup does not phase it. It looks, and
Mare's tail, ragweed.
Yep.
There's reports of Johnson grass. They're actually not so much in our area here, but a lot of Johnson grass you get up in the Midwest, and it's water hemp. They have a huge water hemp problem up there.
I want to say that's related to...
It's related to a pigweed. It's
Yeah.
it's in the Palmer family, or the pigweed
amaranths.
family, amaranth family.
So knowing how to calibrate, then this is really important stuff.
Very important.
And you know how he was talking about not overpouring, but that's right. You want to know what you're putting in the tank, but also too you want to put enough. Don't cheap out. The cheapest trip you can make is the first one, and doing it right. So.
Can you explain why people shouldn't be following a spot rate for broadcasting over a big area?
Well, because, a spot rate.
Like one, what would you say?
Just in my head, immediately whenever you say that, spot spraying, mixing up a 1 gallon or 2 gallon pump up sprayer and walking around with a hand wand. This is just Bryson math here. This is no publication, but best I can tell is whenever you do that, whenever you're walking with that hand wand and you're spraying, typically you're going to be putting out somewhere around a 20 gallon per acre spray.
Okay.
Because in your head, I got to hose that down
I'm
in
gonna
order to
soak
kill
it.
it.
Yeah.
You got to soak it down.
Yeah.
So you're getting somewhere around 20 or 25 gallons per acre spot spraying. Well, then you mix up that same dilution of spray, and you might be spraying, 5 gallons per acre broadcast and not know it. You just go and you fill up your tank and you just wide open hitting your 4-wheeler trails, hitting your green fields, whatever, and you don't have a clue what you're putting out. But as long as you're driving, and you drive a lot faster than you walk, and you don't. You just think you're doing a good job, but
You're probably
really not.
also thinking that, I'm going to see how far I can go on this tank.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
If I can stretch this out, I ain't got to go back to the truck and fill up or drive a mile
Get some water.
back to the camp house to the water hose to fill up.
People will try to argue that, like, how much do I need to put in my 25-gallon 4-wheeler tank?
I tell you, the one question that drives me crazy:
Ounces per gallon.
how many ounces per gallon do I need to put? Well, I can't tell you that because I don't know how many gallons per acre you're putting out.
Right.
Chemicals are formulated to put ounces per acre or
Yeah.
per square foot or per, it's
Per
not,
area.
it's not
per
we
gallon.
take a 25-gallon sprayer. Well, is it an ounce per gallon or 2 ounces? Well, we don't know. How many acres are you going to cover with that 25-gallon sprayer? So that's where you mess up with your rates being too less or too much and all that.
I have also Bryson-fied a formula.
Okay. What's the
for
Bryson formula?
Round up a minimum of 3 ounces per gallon for those people that
Refuse to follow the per area rate.
3 ounces, which is a 3% solution. 3 ounces per gallon, and that'll get you a good kill. And you want to do, if somebody's spraying Roundup and 2,4-D for a burn down or whatever, they need to do equal parts Roundup and 2,4-D.
3 and 3.
3 and 3.
So you just gave everybody a cheat code.
I just gave them a cheat code, but I would highly recommend
Not doing
figuring
that.
out if you're broadcasting, if you're not spot spraying, if you're filling up a 1-gallon spot sprayer to go around your house or whatever, do the 3 to 4 ounces per gallon. That'll work for you every time. But if you're filling up a 25, 30, 50-gallon sprayer that's in the back of a Ranger or on the 4-wheeler or whatever, you need to know how much that sprayer is putting out and what mile per hour you need to drive at and all that before you figure out what rate you need to put in the tank.
Are most chemicals around 10 gallons per acre, or
That's the optimum
That's the
GPA. You can get depending on how you're nozzled. So then you get into the question of is it a fine tip,
Right.
a
Droplet
coarse
size.
droplet size? So that
Coverage is key.
Coverage is the key. I mean, we got airplanes that spray thousands and thousands of acres and get a excellent control, and that are only putting out 3 gallons per acre.
So to
Wow.
our
because
listeners,
it's that fine?
Because
yeah,
it's that
because
fine of a mist.
It's all
of
about
coverage.
it's all about your coverage.
Coverage is key.
yeah, so when he's saying 3 gallons an acre, he's talking about like total
Of
solution.
not of a chemical.
I got
Yeah,
you.
of total solution. But typically what we try to shoot for on a ground rig, or as we call it, is 10 gallons
10
per
gallons
acre.
per acre.
I think a lot of labels used to say like 10 to 25,
Right.
but as I guess technology has improved and stuff, if you can get it closer to 10, then you can cover
Right.
more area on a tank.
Certain chemicals actually call for more gallons per acre to get the better coverage.
It's
and,
all about the coverage.
and it has to do with the size of your target species you're trying to kill too. I mean, if you're out there trying to kill weeds knee high, you're going to need more water for more coverage to cover all that plant to kill it.
If you wait till the end of August to go spray your food plots, odds are you need a lot more water than what
20 gallons an acre probably.
Yeah.
If
it's hitting the brush guard on your Ranger whenever you're going through there spraying, you need to be putting out more water.
Yeah.
Because you got so much more plant matter.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And farmers are probably better at that, at keeping things in check and keeping stuff shorter before they,
Well,
make a move on something. We usually just show up in August and are like, let's get started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no,
yeah.
look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
But in the meantime, some of that tall stuff may be good cover
Right.
You know,
Right,
so we
yeah.
don't always want to
It-
keep it looking like a golf course.
You're comparing apples and oranges there. I mean,
Right.
they do what they have to do to survive.
Exactly.
As far as farming, but
Right.
a lot of times it is good to have that cover
Yeah.
and browse if you got native plants growing in there or whatever. Not just
Right.
salt and earth.
Which is fine because we can adjust the solution to
Correct.
Yep.
do that.
Well, last year though, when we were working on the non-typical field, I waited, and the ironweed got such a jump in it that I wasn't able to control it. Well, I knew if I'd have started, 3 or 4 weeks earlier, I probably could have controlled it.
Yep.
So let's talk about a spray rig, and
Yeah.
maybe a 25-gallon one first.
Yep.
And what are there some attributes if a guy goes to the local store to buy one? Are there things that you guys would say, man, let's get a boomless one, let's to get this nozzle? What do y'all like?
Well, me and him, we're opposites on this topic.
And
That's good.
I think it's Ford and Chevy. I mean, it could really.
I love a straight boom with nozzles every 20 inches tips. I think you get a better coverage and a better spray pattern.
And I like a boomless. I like to go fast, and I don't like to be worried about hitting trees. And man, you know how many times I've sprayed with a boom and clipped a little sapling, and it just folded my boom around. And I got to get off and flip it back around. It slows down progress. You get a boomless that'll throw 30 foot. That now we speaking my language. I
Bull in
like
a
doing
china
that.
shop.
So, yeah, you were kind of talking about the cons of a boom. It's easy to get it hung up on stuff. When we hunters usually have a bunch of narrow trails.
Right.
But what would be a negative of a boomless? I mean, it's just usually just one nozzle in the middle.
Well,
but
the ones that I like is it's a three nozzle.
okay,
It's got just a short boom. I mean, it's probably a 2-foot boom that stays right behind your rig. It has a center nozzle that has it's a 110 degree nozzle. So you got 80, 85, 80 degree nozzle, and you got 110s. It's a lot wider. That covers your Ranger track. Then it has 2 nozzles on both ends of this boom that those out.
I've seen those.
And I prefer that one. The downfall that I see to it is wind. If you get in a have a gusting situation or a real high wind with the boom, you can set a boom on the ground and I mean it's not displacing that solution very much.
Right.
But with the boomless, you're having to throw that solution so far that wind is constricting you on your pattern. So you'll wind up with a streaked up field or
Right.
whatever. But if you're just spraying like your trails or in some of these tight places that it might be a 1/8 or a 1/4 acre food plot, you'll be fine because it's human nature to you're gonna get adequate coverage.
Right.
You're gonna double back on yourself. You don't have guidance. You don't have swath control and all that. You're gonna cover it. But that's the one downfall is the wind. You think you have a 30-foot swath, but you really may be only putting out a 22-foot swath.
Right, and one side may go 40, and
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I can see where somebody would be like Twinky and want something that's always going to be more precise, but I can always see where somebody like me would just rather have that wider swath, and it's okay if it misses a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Tell you what else works good. You can take them tips and turn them up and go down a 4-wheeler trail. You ain't got to worry about no limbs
Yeah,
hitting you.
it's everything.
It'll sear all of them back.
What about PSI? Is there a certain size motor that you like to have?
Well,
a minimum.
I like the more gallons. So it's gallons per minute pump. That's what changes how fast you can go. It has nothing to do with how big your tank is. None of that. It's all about how much gallons per minute your pump is. Like most pumps, if you get a big system, a 65-gallon UTV sprayer, most of those are going to come with a 4-gallon per minute pump, which is fine.
First thing we did to ours was pulled it off.
I pulled
put a
that
7-gallon per minute on there.
put a 7, that's a game changer. I mean, I can run 10 miles an hour and
Get it done quick.
yeah. I'm shooting for me personally. I'm shooting for around 7 gallons per acre.
Yeah.
Now that right, wrong, and different
7 gallons per minute or acre?
per acre.
Per acre.
So you're trying to get
Because
that low.
That way I can do 10 acres per.
Yeah.
I got a
tank.
65 gallon sprayer. I can do
I
right
see.
at 10 acres
Yeah.
per load,
That makes sense.
and I can get done a little bit quicker. But the PSI question, every tip that's designed is designed at a baseline of to work at its optimum at 40 PSI. It'll work at 80 or whatever. I mean, you can blow it as high as you want, and you're just gonna have a mist coming out. I mean, the higher the PSI, the finer the droplet. Lower the PSI, the coarser the droplet. But the tip to do what it's designed to do needs to be ran at 40 PSI. A lot of times on my personal sprayer, I'll bump my PSI up to around 50 because the tips that I have on the boomless nozzle, those a lot coarser droplet, and I want to get better coverage, so I bump the PSI up to make it more of a
You get more fine beads.
More of a
Right.
mist.
right.
So backing up a little bit, I'm when I'm spraying, I always miss something. You know, is there any kind of I know there's GPS units and all that other kind of stuff. Is there any just tips you can give us on the Ranger or the
Pick-
four-wheeler?
Pick a tree at the end and don't look back.
Just stay focused.
Once
on
you
it.
take your eyes off, you're going to drift to the right or the
Yeah,
left, and
yeah.
you'll never get lined back up.
Yeah.
That's kind of, just pick you a good set, obvious point down there and just keep your eyes on it and never look back.
And
but
you
it's,
want a little overlap in your spray?
yeah,
A little.
yeah,
a little overlap.
Just
Yep.
a little. Not
Yep.
too much.
Yeah, so
I would rather have overlap in my spray any day of the week
then
than
a
have a
streaked
green
up
streak.
field. Yeah.
I always got a streak.
I
in
can't
mine.
stand a green streak.
Well, if
We use Onyx a lot with the tracking tool, but I still, miss a little bit.
Well, you think if you miss, if you have a green streak and you leave one pigweed that you didn't kill, it's just a nest of thousands of seeds up there. Well, you're still kind of defeating the purpose there
Yeah.
because it's going to germ and spread. You want to kill everything out there when you
And
spray.
are y'all going on outside perimeter and working in, or are you going down and back and down and back?
I ring
and
the
down?
field,
Uh-huh.
make me an outside pass, and then I get down and back. Just
And that way you can cut off.
you can kind of
Yeah.
cut
You know, if you got
off
a
and
switch.
turn, and you're not over applying on the ends and all that.
Right, when you're turning.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Lanny's question was similar, and I'm stealing this from Bobby because he was talking about it earlier. Do folks use dyes, or
Yes.
does that affect
Or
the?
foam. I mean,
a foam marker.
Foam
I mean-
markers. You have dyes that you can add to the solution.
I can just tell you, I've tried every dye known to man.
But
I've
it's-
tried it at every rate known to man. If you're spraying a blue dye on a dark green grass, you're not going to see it.
Okay, good answer.
There it is.
You're seeing the sunlight reflect the moisture off the plant than you
Yeah.
are the blue dye.
Yeah.
And I've heard
Yeah.
it can inhibit the uptake a little bit on some.
Now
chemicals.
in somebody's yard, that's a Bermuda yard that's mowed down and manicured, you can see it.
Okay.
Now, so I'm not saying that it don't work, but in
In
what
our
in what
application.
we're doing, you'd be better off
And the-
just doing something different.
Yeah, the foam markers, I think you can use that like on a big boom, but
Right.
there's no way you can do that on a boomless. I don't
Right.
know.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Oh.
No, it ain't. Yeah, it ain't gonna work.
So maybe use some of that Bubba method and just drive around with water in it and kind of get used to the width of your pattern.
Right.
I will say that I think the boomless nozzles are a little more user friendly because you have one nozzle to worry about rather than 20 across there. Well, if you're spraying and the nozzle directly behind the tank stopped up, you have no way of seeing it unless somebody calls you and say, "Hey man, your nozzle stopped up." So
Yeah.
then with the boomless, one nozzle, you look back there, if it's spraying or not. So
How often you clean
I did
those
that one
screens
time.
up?
Especially from chemical to chemical, you want to clean them out and just every time before I spray, I always take my tips off and look at the little mesh filter that's on the inside because you get corrosion from
Yeah.
water and stuff.
It's amazing
and-
what shows up in them. It's like, where'd that
Oh
come
yeah.
from?
Well, I can tell you, 5 minutes of running water through one when you get done, will save the life of any sprayer. I don't care if it's pump up.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you'll just and it don't matter if it's just if you saying this just Roundup. Roundup will gum up in there because it just does. I can't explain it. That's what happens more times than none on tips getting clogged up or pumps not wanting to work right or
Just cycle through it when you're done.
Fresh water is the best
just-
tank cleaner you can have.
Yeah.
best solution to pollution is dilution.
And do it right then.
Yep.
Yeah, just do it
Yeah,
right
don't
then.
let it sit
while-
overnight. Just when you get done, if you got a 25-gallon sprayer, put 10 gallons in there,
Let it rip.
run fresh water through there, and you're done. I mean, it's
You do that to mine whenever you got done with it. I'm sure you did.
I run a full tank through there.
I'm sure you
So,
did.
what about this? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but just say that you and your buddies are prepping for food plots, and you know it's going to be a 2-weekend window to get all your spraying done.
Yeah.
Do you mix only enough for that first day of spraying, or what if you have a big tank and you go ahead and mix it all, but only spray half? Is it going to work as well that next weekend if you leave it in the tank?
It ain't milk. It ain't gonna run.
But you also want to consider what chemicals you're spraying, too.
Right.
If you're spraying a clay-based chemical, you do not want that to set up. I mean, you're going to have a lot of other issues than if it's the efficacy of it.
Yep.
You're
That's like a pre-merge or something.
or
Right.
just like your atrazines or dual or something like that.
But you talking about just as far as spraying your plots in two weekends?
Yeah, so,
just say you mix a tank of Roundup.
and it starts raining,
Yeah.
and you got to come back that next weekend. Is that going to affect how well it works?
Not at
No.
all. Not
Okay.
at all.
So I guess the surfactants and all that other stuff
It
conditions the water.
It all stays in solution. One good practice I would say to always do is whenever you have to let it sit overnight, even I like to just recirculate it for just a minute. Just get everything going and make sure everything's in solution, because if something falls out of solution, first place it's going is to the bottom usually.
And that's where
And-
your pickup hose.
And that's where your pickup is. So just run it back through and let most of these sprayers have a recirculation valve for, to control your pressure with. Just cut it on, go do something else for about 5 minutes and then come back to it.
I just figured out mine has that.
Yeah, it's pretty
and
cool, really.
It's a bypass.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't realize what that was, and I finally figured it out.
It mixes it for you.
It's
You
amazing.
can stick your hand in there and stir it up anymore, Bobby.
Yeah.
It's really pretty amazing.
That's to regulate your PSI as well.
Dudley, you brought up something I feel like we need to address, talking about the water. Your water quality is a huge, huge
Yes.
thing to concern with when you spray. Just say, like, in our part of the world, the water is horrible. I mean, it's not that it's going to kill you to drink it, but as far as spraying herbicides, insecticides, it is bad. And what I would say 90 to 100% of our farmers use a water conditioner. And what we mean by having hard water, what happens is, say your rate of Roundup is 32 ounces. We'll say you dump your Roundup in there and chemical, everything gets tied up. Well, at that point, you're only getting, just say you're getting a 60% use out of what you had. So you went from applying a quart to a pint, a half rate, and that's just
From the quality of the water.
Just from the quality
So-
of the water.
And then you circle back to the resistance issue.
And you can have even with our water being so horrible, you can add certain chemicals and you have like just build up, and it's just different kind of chemical reactions, I would say.
The biggest thing, we just got a water test back off of a grower, and the biggest issue that we have on this 45 corridor here where we're sitting is the pH of the water. The pH of the water is running around 8.2, 8.3, something like that.
Mine's 8. Yeah.
We
And-
did this
and-
at the nursery,
Yeah.
and our bicarbonates were really high,
our
which is calcium and magnesium in
That's
the water.
right. And our sodium levels are high in our water too.
Huh.
Just not as far as a spray solution, not saying that it's bad to drink or anything.
Right.
No.
Probably why I have kidney stones.
Yeah, it could be.
Might
part
be,
of it.
Bobby.
But that the 8 being the high pH of the water is affecting us just as much, if not more, as the hardness that he was talking about, because the Roundup, whenever it goes in the tank, it wants to be at a 5.5. It's real acidic. So the percentage he was talking about that's getting tied up, that percentage is going, first thing it's doing is changing the pH of that water as soon as it goes in the tank. And it binds to the bicarbonates and all the other metals that's in the water and doesn't allow it to be in an active form.
Right.
And so that's where the tie-up we talk about.
That makes a whole lot of sense
So
all of a sudden.
Do y'all have a water conditioner?
We do. It's called Choice Trio.
Choice Trio.
We have seen it countless times. The farmer, spring comes around, he's ready to spray his burn down, loads up with Roundup, goes out there and sprays. You know, we have a lot of cover crops. And the cover crop, it looks like it makes it sick, and then 2 or 3 days later, it greens right back up. We go back, the neighbor right next to him sprayed the same solution mixture. Everything, only difference is he added the water conditioner, and it looks like it's stone cold dead, brittle brown.
How much water conditioner do you use?
1% of your solution. So if you got a 500-gallon tank, you'd use 5
ounce
gallons.
per gallon.
Ounce per. I thought you didn't like ounce per gallon.
I don't, but I'm just saying that's.
Yeah.
If somebody don't understand 1%, then that would be
you can do that with surfactants.
1 ounce
Yeah.
per gallon.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Adjuvants.
Adjuvants are a very important, vital part to spraying, whether it be surfactants, your water conditioners, anything. Drift agents. You know, we make drift agents and all that. People think you buy a cheap Roundup and pour it in there, you have a premium product. You do not. If you have to buy a higher priced Roundup to get a premium surfactant, it's the cheapest trip, like he said, is your first one.
Interesting.
Yep.
And it's interesting what you're saying about the resistance, because the water quality is not necessarily that people aren't spraying enough. It's just
It's so much tie
being
up
bound up in the water.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
I was just thinking about that water conditioner. I've heard that a lot.
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense, and it doesn't take much to treat that.
Not at all.
And
Put it in before you start mixing chemicals.
And glyphosate, and I always wonder if I'm saying that right.
Oh yeah.
Needs a five pH of 5.5.
Right.
Wow.
Acidic.
There's a lot of difference
It's
between
like
8
rain.
and 5.5.
It's like rainwater instead of well water.
You know, think of your water quality just like your soil quality. If your pH has got to be right for everything to work right. Well, same way in your water. The water is just it's another quote soil fertility. If things aren't right in what you're growing ain't going, or spraying is not going to work either.
Any ever like draw out of a reservoir or anything, or
Yeah.
Lake water and all.
Yeah.
But then you get into
into
a lot of
algae problems, stopping up
you
filters.
got all that other stuff that's in that water. It's
You
tying
gotta
up
go
with
through
that
that.
Roundup.
Yeah.
You know, to neutralize,
I think about that.
bring everything to an equilibrium, so to speak, before
A lot of chemistry in this.
Yeah.
I mean,
like Twinky said, it's just like we talk about pH in the soil all the time. We preach it with food plots, but we never bring it up with water, and especially spraying. So.
pH is
Unless
key.
you're working on your swimming pool.
Your pH gets off in your body, it ain't gonna be good
No,
either.
you
pH
going down.
is it's the cornerstone of everything we do.
so Bryson, you were telling us earlier about this baby bottle method.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So whenever I was at Mississippi State, we just touched on it. Of course, Dr. Dan Reynolds, I'll give him a shout out here, but he is the calibration wizard. He touched on the baby bottle method. Back in the day, everybody to calibrate their sprayer, they would need something to catch water, so they would get a baby bottle because it had the ounces on the side and catch the water.
I guess the hole barely fit over the nozzle too.
That's right. And you just hold it over there for however long, the extended period of time. But the theory behind it is you measure off 1/128th of an acre, which would be 340 square feet. We could get deep dive into.
But what's interesting to me is that the 1/128th is the same number as the amount of ounces in a gallon.
Yeah. So the 1/128th, that's the ounces in the gallon, and then you catch you drive that 340 square feet, and you time how long it takes you to drive that 340 square feet. You catch water for that time, and however many ounces you catch is how much gallons per acre you're putting out, because you covered 1/128th of an acre.
Right.
And so, I don't know exactly. You would have to do it in how far a straight line is,
So
So there's 43,560 square feet in an acre. You divide that by 128. That gives you the 340. Then you've got 20 inch width. So you got 20 inches apart is your nozzles. So you would take the 340 feet, times it by 12, and times it by 12, divide by 20, and that should give you in inches. No. You'd have to times it by 12, 340 times 12, multiply by 20, divide it by 12, and that'll give you your feet that you need to run. That would be the 120. How the distance. It should be. I think that's right. I'd have to look at my calculator.
If I'm boomless though, and I've just got one nozzle.
All right. Well, if that's the case, you have to measure off, instead of 20 inches, it's the distance of your boom. So you need to get on the concrete, let your boomless nozzle go, measure your distance. Distance is distance. It don't matter if it's 20 inches or 20 feet. And you measure your distance. Say it's 20 feet. You put that into inches and do it the same way. Every method that I know involves a little bit of math. But that's a fast, easy way of doing it. But my preferred method is the equation, because it's never wrong. The only thing it's simpler to me. If you know how fast you're going and you know your width, that's the simplest way for me personally to think.
Speed time width.
It's GPM, so gallons per minute, times 5940, divided by your speed times your width. So speed times width into the 5940 and GPM. And you to get your GPM, you just need to catch. So if you're on a boomless nozzle, you need to catch one nozzle and see how many ounces you're putting out for 15 seconds.
So get you a measuring cup.
Get one of them
Stop
measuring
watching
cups.
one hand, put it under there, cut the sprayer on, time at 15 seconds. Then you get your ounces.
How many ounces?
How many
All right,
ounces?
but you got to take that number and multiply it by 4
because that's 60, which is how many seconds are in a minute.
in a minute. So that's how many ounces you get caught in a minute. Divide that number by 128 to get your GPM. That would be your gallons per minute. It's always going to be a decimal point. So it's a 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, whatever, which is also the number that you need whenever selecting your nozzle selecting. Figuring out how you need to nozzle your sprayer to get your gallons per acre. But so you take the 0.2, whatever, let's just say it's 0.2, and multiply that by the 5940 and divide it by your speed that you wish to go, times the width of the sprayer in inches, and that will give you what your gallons per acre
And your
will be.
speed's in miles per hour?
Yes, miles per hour.
And divide it by the width in inches.
Multiply your speed and your width, and then
Divide your GPM.
divide that into the
GPM
GPM times 5940. And 5940, I've never got a straight answer on that, other than that's just the constant, and that's just the way this thing works.
I was going to ask, where'd the
I do
5940
not
come
know.
from?
That's where the sprayer gods.
They said 5940.
Yeah.
No idea
That's it.
why it's that number, but that's the number.
That's like pi.
That's pi. That is the pi in the ag
5940
world.
is a constant.
Okay, so to recap, so
Yep.
we can be real clear.
So folks can write this down.
You take the gallons per minute
Yep.
that you figured out by measuring 15 seconds with your
Just coming out of a nozzle.
and then you multiply that times 4
To get your minute.
to get your gallons per minute.
Yep.
Then you take that gallons per minute and you multiply it times 5940.
5,940.
Then on another piece of paper, we're going to come over
Get
here.
your other toe out.
We're going to take our speed which we think how
whatever is your desired speed that you want to run
and we're going to multiply it times the width of how wide we're spraying
in inches.
in inches.
So if you got a 20-foot spray, if it's a 20-foot boomless nozzle, you multiply the 20 times 12 to put it into inches.
Okay.
240.
And then we'll have a number and we'll divide it by that. The gallons per minute times 5940 is a number, and then we divide it by that.
By the number that we made out of the miles per hour and the width.
I think Dr. Spray over here should have to make a cheat sheet for y'all to post.
And that gives us
Yes,
what?
I agree.
Well, I can do that.
Yeah, and we'll put it in the Richie, can we put that in the show notes? Richie, wake up over there.
Anything for you, Bobby.
Wait, this is
And
getting kind
that
of
ends
confusing.
up giving us what?
That equals your gallons per acre.
So, and I think kind of as a rule of thumb, we talk about this speed, everybody wants to go fast, everybody wants to get done, but I would say on your ATV, UTV sprayers, 5 to 7 miles an hour is a good speed to shoot for, because that's about all your pump's going to be able to handle. And also, I mean, most times when you're spraying in the field or something like that, it is going to be a rough pass.
You're going to get beat to death.
You don't want to run 12 miles an hour and you're
I've
rough on
wanted
your
to
equipment.
and
So,
can't.
but I would say 5 to 7, maybe a smaller pump, 4 miles an hour. But that's just kind of because if you get out there and you're thinking I'm gonna run 12 miles an hour, well, you're gonna have to have a big pump to do that, and it's just.
And the fastest way to get off on your gallons per acre is your miles per hour, because everything else is going to usually stay pretty constant. But if you want to change your gallons per acre, just ease that foot down a little bit more, take it off a little bit, and that'll change that'll change it the fastest. And that's the reason I love that formula, is because I can see what mile per hour I can plug in. If I decide that I want to run 10 miles an hour, I can say, well, I'm going to be putting out a little bit less gallons per acre, but I'll get on over it, And so that's the reason I love that formula.
Can you increase your chemical concentration?
Correct.
When you got okay.
So that way I know how my tank's going to work. I know I've got a 70-gallon tank, and I'm going to be putting out, say I decide I want to go 10 miles an hour, and I'm only going to be putting out 5 gallons per acre.
Yeah.
That's not ideal, but that's a decision,
So would you double the concentration of chemical in there?
Correct. I would change it. I would change my rate per acre, because I'm not working off of ounces per gallon. I'm working off of ounces per acre.
It don't matter how big your tank is. It matters how many acres you're getting out of that tank.
Gotcha.
Right.
Well, just say we got a 100-gallon tank. Well, if we're putting out 10 gallons of water and we can get over 10 acres, we'll just say we're going to bump it up to 20 gallons of water to get better coverage. We're in some thicker stuff. You're going to get less amount of acres, so you would add less chemical.
But you can go the opposite with that.
You go the opposite.
Yeah.
Say if you're happy with 5, say it's just you're just cleaning some stuff up, and you think you can get away with a fine droplet of 5 miles an hour, you can, bump your chemical rate, your acres per gallon up, and you cover more, but you're not, you're getting less water.
Because I've been stuck on that 10 gallons. I got to put 10 gallons an acre out.
Yeah.
I've never had anything with a speedometer on it, and so like on my ancient Honda, it's either like I'm going
Speedometer
kind of
out.
high RPMs in second gear, or just kind of slow in third. Is always.
Well,
That's kind of one of my 2 speeds I've done.
The blessing about that now is technology.
Is there an app?
iPhone get you a speedometer app.
Yeah.
And you have a speedometer wherever you're at. Then.
I'll duct tape it to my handlebars.
Sometimes when I'm in like a tractor or side by side or something spraying, I still pull my app up to see if because if you've changed tire size or something, it's going to change your speedometer to see how actually bad off you could be miles per hour. So if it says you're running 5 but you're really running 8, that's shortening it up. That's why your chemical your tank could get empty quicker than you thought it was going to, or you sprayed a little further than you thought.
Bryson, is your bookie calling you?
No.
Okay.
I had a few of them call, but it ain't none of them my bookie. I was just making sure it wasn't.
So what if I'm like, gee whiz, could I not take my tank and put 10 gallons of water in it, and if I think my plot's about an acre, put in my the appropriate chemical and just do it one at a time?
Absolutely.
I think the best method for that is to get your Google Maps, your Onyx or whatever, and map you out an acre, and just put your 10 gallons in there and just kind of play with it. You know, it may take a little trial and error, and you know, say I know for a fact this is 1 acre. Well, say I get over it and I got a little bit left, well, so maybe I just need to speed up a little bit. Or you get over it and you got a half a tank left, you're like, oh man,
I've been going a little fast.
I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna bump down a gear. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's a good kind of.
But knowing your acre,
That's a good country boy kind of
That
way
is.
to figure
knowing
it out.
your acre is the key there. The part of mapping it out and knowing
Yeah.
exactly what you're spraying.
Well, our friends at Onyx can help you do that. And guys, if you don't have, you can get that Onyx right now and use code Mossy Oak and get 20% off.
That's right.
Look, Bryson, we're saving you money right there if you
Looking
want to.
there.
So that'd be a really good use of that.
Oh,
and,
no, it's
and then
great
you could
use of-
use that tracking feature. And
It helps me.
and see where
Seed
you've
nor
been.
spraying, it really
So
does.
that all helps.
So there's a little bit of variation too on if you're running a PTO pump versus an electric pump, because higher RPMs means higher
Pressure,
gallons
more
per
volume.
minute, more volume.
And that's where your bypass or your recirculating valve could also come into play. You know,
Okay.
if
you
you
can change your pressure.
you can bypass a little more. You got a pressure adjuster and all that. You know, all sprayers have a pressure gauge, so
Yeah.
that's what when we're talking about the 60 or 40 psi. That's what you're looking on the little round white gauge for your psi, and you can adjust that with either a pressure gauge, pressure valve, or some of them have a recirculating valve, and you just cut it open and let it flow a little faster, a little, you know.
But if
that makes sense. I just went faster, and I need.
I would
didn't
think
really
if you're
go that.
running the same RPMs, it would put out the same.
It'd
Yeah.
be consistent, but
Yeah,
you know,
Well,
Yeah.
and also too though, if you wanted to cut your volume down or cut it up, when still run the same RPMs and all that, you know, a lot of times what needs to happen is you need to re-nozzle it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know you got 01s, 02s, 03s, 04s, and that number is significant because those are the 04 would be, you know, if you have anything that runs a 0.36 to a 4 or 5 or anything from a 4 to a 4 or 5, I think is what it is a 04, and then.
and that's how big the hole is in the
That's right.
nozzle?
That's your orifice size.
Gotcha.
Then
Your orifice. You work in an orifice?
orifice.
This is like Chinese
You have a couple
arithmetic,
orifices
man.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the best explanation I've heard
Yes.
as far as doing the math, and the easiest. I mean, you could, we could put that out and you could put it on your phone and just have it available.
If you've got all the information,
Right.
all you got to do is plug it into that formula and do it.
Lanny, we're always in here. We always have these interesting guests, and you're always on your computer. What's up?
I'm looking at Onyx the whole time. I love that, but I love the desktop too.
My favorite thing is Bobby doesn't know how to shut his computer down,
Yeah.
so I can go in there and share his pins to my account.
That's what you were doing in there this morning.
Yep.
Back during deer season, you know, I shot a couple of big bucks.
Of
But
course.
As I'm looking for them, I
Couple.
can turn on this tracking feature.
Yeah.
And I can see where I've looked.
And I use that feature too for spreading seed, spreading fertilizer, spraying. It really keeps you on track.
Onyx is a great company. Look, we know Jared. They're hunters,
They
just
are.
like we are. So
Yes,
they're
no
serious
doubt
about
about
this.
it.
The way they've designed this thing, a hunter and a gamekeeper can take advantage of it and make their property better.
Use coupon code Mossy Oak to save 20% off of your Onyx subscription.
Yeah, and Mac, you shouldn't do that now. Richie, you got to help me. Okay.
See these people? When the clock strikes 5, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. They have to do these things. They have to do those things. Enter the all-new LS Tractor MT2 and MT2E, a relentless force of innovation. Redesigned with a new hood and cab built for comfort and visibility, with enhanced lifting capacity to get the job done. Making these people the ones everyone else calls those people. Visit your local LS Tractor dealer today.
Hey y'all, Jimbo here with Drake Waterfowl and Old Tom Turkey, talking about some of our new turkey stuff for this spring. We want to start with the Early Bird collection with vital protection technology. our newest, most innovative collection of technical hunting apparel designed for turkey hunters. It helps in the prevention of tick-borne illnesses such as Lyme disease and alpha-gal syndrome. It's good for up to 70 washings. It's lightweight, breathable stretch fabric with antimicrobial technologies. Be sure and check it out at a dealer near you or drakewaterfowl.com/Old Tom.
What about mixing the tank?
Yeah.
Does every chemical, whether you're spraying Arsenal or Roundup or Garlon or something, do you always put the water first, or do you put the chemical? Do you put the crop? How does that work, or is that just a follow the label is going to tell you the proper
label is law? But the only thing that I would recommend is if you're mixing a whole lot of different products. You got. You're making a chemistry. There's a reason they're not already in the jug together. So
right.
If you can have some water in there to kind of make that first confrontation a little bit easier for them, you're going to be better off, because there's certain chemicals that are just not compatible with the other ones, and you get into a clabbering up situation or a salting out or whatever, which. Funny enough, we got a chemical to solve that too.
Yeah.
But,
Easy mix.
Let me tell you.
Easy mix.
We don't like having to use that, because most of the time, somebody's called us and they're very upset with us because
There's a $500,000 sprayer sitting on the turn road
with slime coming out the tips.
Chlorine tablets,
it congealed.
slime or mud coming out of the tips, and
Yeah.
that's no longer their sprayer. That is our sprayer and our problem at that point.
I always I'm pretty sure the label always calls for fill your tank up halfway, add the chemical, fill the tank up the rest of the way with water. Do I always do that? No, especially just Roundup.
And
if it's something you're used to using, and then there's that jar test where you can just pour a small amount in a jar and shake it around.
Right.
So look, you guys are big, rough and tough, muscular, bearded guys like I am, and we got a lot of
yeah.
We got a whole
muscular,
lot.
bearded. What? Not you.
When y'all are out there and you're trying to get through the day, please tell me y'all are putting on goggles and
Oh, yes,
and putting
absolutely.
on gloves,
PPE.
and people listen to this. Y'all need to be safe. with these
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Because these
Goggles, respirators, chemical gloves, and don't just your leather gloves. No, get you some chemical grade gloves, aprons,
latex
long
gloves,
sleeves.
right. Don't let it get on your skin. And,
You got an apron?
Yeah, we got.
I got a cooking apron and I got a spraying apron.
There you go.
I don't get them mixed up.
He
Though,
cooks.
Bobby, don't worry.
He cooks in both of them.
I would think leather would be the opposite of what you would want to
Yeah.
put
soak
on.
it up.
Yeah.
You just think everybody he usually has a pair of leather work gloves on the tractor. Well, they think they put
That's
them on. Well, that's just like trapping it on you. It soaks through the leather, and
And
it you can buy a box of latex gloves for
Cheap.
$5 from CVS. Keep them in the tractor, and when you get done that one time, throw them away. Put
Right.
you a new pair on.
We always
And
got a pack in the truck.
I can tell you, most people that are going to be out there spraying their food plots and all that, they're probably not going to have an apron and all that. But what they will have is at least a pair of safety glasses or sunglasses or something, and something that they can put on their hands. If I had one recommendation at all, it would be to make sure they always had on glasses and always had on gloves, because the good Lord only gives us one set of eyes. And these chemicals, if they get in your eyes and you're on the back 40 back there, they can really do some damage to your eyesight in a hurry if the wrong stuff gets in your eyes.
Good point.
So, that's the two, all the PPE and it's labeled in there on the label as far as what PPE is needed to handle the chemical, but as a rule of thumb, always have some kind of eye protection and something on your hands.
Yep.
And also, I think a big thing we should talk about that does not get touched on very much is go to your local extension office and get your private applicator's license.
Yes.
It is a test that you take that informs you about PPE, spraying, different chemicals, and it also provides you with a license to be able to go buy. Maybe you need a restricted chemical, Bobby. Well, you call me. You're like, hey, my crop scout said I need this. Well, army worms are killing my green fields. Well, Bobby, I can't say that because you don't have a restricted use.
Right. You'd be surprised how many chemicals
Or-
you have to have that permit in order to buy. Or
So
we
take-
have no option. We
You
can't
get
sell
with your
it.
local extension agent. I think
Like FSA or NRCS?
Mississippi State Extension
Yeah.
Office. You could call the
There's
boss over there, and
one
I
in
think
every
it'll
county.
take you 2 or 3 hours. Maybe you watch a couple videos. They teach you the class. You take the test, and you get your certification. And I think it's good for 6 years or five. So just keep up to date with that.
Cody's got his, doesn't he?
Yeah. While you're at it, sign up for the fire class.
Yeah.
There you
You
go.
can do the pesticide applicators
something-
and
But that's in every state now. So if you're in Georgia,
Extension
It
service.
varies.
And different states are a little bit
They have different laws, just like
But-
every hunting laws and
but
everything else.
most every state in the southeast that we touch, I'm assuming all over the U.S. have some sort of permit in place.
So you guys just hit on something that I think it brings us back to the importance of the talk, not only about calibration, but sprayers. So, Lanny, if you think about this, so we love clovers.
Yes,
we
do.
love soybeans. And so those crops, as we plant them as wildlifers, they're going to need to be sprayed for, with some kind of
Yeah, to reduce competition.
and then we can fertilize. Then we can come back later on in the year and we can fertilize again. But then if we have an armyworm issue, heaven forbid, there's chemistry that you can spray down in anticipation of having armyworm.
Yep.
And so then you could not worry about it.
Yeah, you can reduce your workload a lot with the proper chemistry,
A good spray rig would be a really useful thing for a guy.
especially for a wildlifer.
You can look at it as spraying as a management tool rather than a problem fixer. You know?
100%.
oh, for sure.
You know,
And it's interesting. I've seen areas that once they've been, treated over the years, what's coming back in them.
and I think something that we need to address is as our two worlds collide, I'd say the farmer versus the
wildlife,
the
yeah.
weekend warrior, deer hunter, or land manager or something. Everybody
A little touchy there with the weekend warrior,
That's
buddy.
it.
Everybody
Easy.
everybody needs to be hesitant of their surroundings when they're spraying. Just
Yeah.
Laney, just say you're gonna go spray 2,4-DB over your clover field, get everything out of it. Well, say Farmer Joe's got cotton up over there, and
He does.
yeah,
And it's hot outside.
and you go through there and you're spraying, the wind's blowing directly that way. Well, what's going to happen is you may not, but you may be clueless about the damage that 2,4-D can cause to cotton. You get a sniff of it, turn it, kill it, and he comes out there mad. You're mad, and next thing you know, you may not have a place to hunt, or he may not have a place
kicked
to
off
farm.
the deer leaves. Yeah.
So I kind of like to bring that up every time. Just be
Hit on
very conscientious of crops around you, even if it's not a commercial crop. Rose bushes, they can
Eat 'em
be
up.
they can be
Tomato gardens.
They can be a casualty of war. Sorry, Taylor.
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
And since you're on that, talk about like conditions, weather conditions. When is it better to? Obviously, wind is going to be an issue. Heat, morning, afternoon. What's the best?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you, Bobby.
Wind
That is an excellent question,
Thank you, sir.
actually.
wind is it should be your first concern all the time. I would think, because if we got gust of winds, probably like we have out there right now, we really don't want to go out there and spray.
Yeah.
You may think, well, I got to. Well, if that stuff's drifting across the field, what good are you doing?
Right.
My typical, I like to wait just for the good old boy rule of thumb. If perfect world and you're not in a rush, wait for the dew to come off before you spray, and let it have an hour before the dew sets again.
Gotcha.
That's my perfect.
So
window.
mid morning, kind of a
mid morning to early afternoon.
Yeah.
Just give it. If you got an hour before dark, shut it off an hour before dark. Let that round up. Have time to get in that plant before the dew sets on it.
Yeah,
take that hour and flush water through your sprayer.
There you go. Clean the sprayer up.
That's right.
Yep.
And speaking of that, like water fastness, I guess that's what I'm asking.
Rain
like,
fastness.
Rain fastness, yeah.
It varies from chemical to chemical.
Yeah.
Hour. And the label says 30 minutes, but I'm just telling you, just give it an hour.
Well, that's really shorter than I thought it would be.
I've sprayed some 2,4, one of those 2,4s on some clover last year.
One of those.
And all of a sudden, this rain shows up that was not anticipated at all. And I panicked. And I went to my advisor, and it was 3 hours before it rained. And he said, "Oh, you're fine.
You're perfect."
And everything worked out.
Yeah.
I was
You
no
want
concern.
it, you want the solution to dry on the plant and have the plant have time to take it up, and all that.
And what's
And
called?
also-
What are those things called? They stomatas? Is that what they take?
Yeah.
The stomato.
The stomato.
That's
I went
the-
to a little bit of plant biology.
But like,
Okay.
you
I
know,
see you over here.
and at night,
Watch it,
you know,
Richie.
they're not really photosynthesizing, or they ain't got them stomates open
Yeah.
yet.
Stomates, yeah.
So,
So the stomates are closed at night.
I've
Okay.
They close whenever that chemical gets in there.
Ah,
They-
okay.
They take it in, and then they see it as an intruder, so
And they
they
shut down.
lock the gates down. Nobody in, nobody out. But then that Roundup,
Too late.
It's just all they can take.
so can we talk just real quick? Help us understand. Sometimes a guy might be going to spray his clover, and he'll have a herbicide, but he could also at the same time add some fertilizer.
Right.
Yeah.
And does that doesn't always work like that, does it?
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, you can just about mix it with anything, but first you get to talking about spraying the fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Well, you get to mixing fertilize and chemicals. Those worlds, they don't really.
They don't really.
They tolerate one another,
They-
but they ain't just married, mammied up together.
They ain't having
That
Sunday
ain't
church picnic.
Mammied up together.
Yeah, they ain't mammied up.
Yeah.
yeah,
They don't talk about that in Alabama.
Oh, no, they don't.
And that's something else. Folks think you can take a tank, sprayer, and if I dump 5 chemicals in there, I'm finna make a nuclear bomb, kill everything. Well, a bunch of times you got chemicals that don't really get along with each other.
Antagonistic.
Antagonism. And it's just, it's
It doesn't work.
sometimes 2 trips is better than 1 trip.
So what I'm hearing from these 2 experts from Nutrien on the couch, that if you had your druthers, you would spray your chemistry and maybe spray your fertilizer later.
Dependent upon art. So just to kind of give a blanket, if you're wanting to put out some liquid nitrogen or whatever with the sprayer and piggyback a herbicide, pretty much typically the one thing that you can get away with is a low vol 2,4-D. It's formulated. It works well with fertilize. You won't have any compatibility issues. But you get outside that realm, and you really need to make sure that you know what you're doing and have a compatibility agent in the tank before you mix the chemical with the fertilizer.
Yeah. And the good thing is, now, we all know some of these things work, and obviously you're explaining and cautioning us, but a guy in Georgia or Indiana
right,
or wherever can find a Nutrien store and talk
Well,
to
yeah.
somebody just like you guys.
I just wrote that down. Yeah.
And if they don't know, I assure you we have the resources at Nutrien that they can find somebody who does know.
Yeah, so we're not telling people to go do something that they can't get an answer to.
No.
Y'all
That's
got
right.
locations across the country.
We're
Yeah.
from New York to Oregon, California. I mean,
We've got listeners
Oh.
in Australia.
Yeah.
we're
got
we're in
business in
Australia,
Australia.
There you go. Look
How
at
about
that.
that?
Brazil,
Shout out to
Yeah,
Clayton.
yeah.
Brazil, all South America. I mean, we're
So there's local subject matter experts at every one of those places.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Twinky and
I
Bryson.
mean, they
that you
may
can
not
tap
be
into.
as good as us.
I'm
And
sure
that-
they're not as good as you.
you know.
I'm gonna say they probably don't understand some of the ones in South America. They probably don't
They don't know
understand.
mammied up.
No.
they're all into
They
the
don't know mammied up.
they're all into the hectares and all that
Right
stuff
now you lose me there. Now
and the kilograms.
I
and-
get excited when I think about all the different things a guy could use a spray rig for.
No doubt about it. It's perfect for the wildlife, and it takes a lot of work out of it. I mean,
And
it really
look,
does.
you can go buy a 25-gallon. Chapin makes one.
Yep.
There's several companies. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but you can go buy most farm supply stores.
Yeah, go to
Tractor
Tractor Supplies, got 'em.
and you can find something that you can afford, and you can do the things that you're talking about.
I would say you can get a ready-to-use unit with pump, tank, boomless nozzle, out the door, $200. I think that's very
doable.
Very
And if you
doable.
wash it out like you're talking about, it could last a long time.
It'll last
long
a
time.
long
How do y'all overwinter them?
Yeah, great question.
Do you worry about like water getting in the pump and freezing or
Drain.
anything?
It's a possibility. What I do on mine is I undo the hoses, drain all the water out. I'll take the air hose and blow through the pump and get all the moisture and everything out of there. And then I'll take a little RV antifreeze, or I tell you what works real good is de-icer for like your
Oh,
car.
yeah. Mhm.
Just take you a little bit of that, put over in there. You know, just pour you a little bit in a funnel and let it sit, and then you shouldn't have no freezing up issues after that. Some pumps have freeze plugs. Be aware of that. That you know the plug's made to take out and drain water out, and that way you don't have none sitting in a little.
Yeah.
It's that bottom inch of water that gets you. It's not that you live. You know, if you take a pump and say at the bottom of the pump there's an inch of water left in there, well, that's what's going to freeze and crack the housing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
I guess de-icer, Rain-X, or whatever it's called.
I
It
just
works
pour
great.
it in there and cut my pump on. Let it
Yeah.
Run it through
there.
everything.
Yep.
Should have done that.
Yeah.
Now you know.
I had to replace a fitting this week.
Did you really?
Yep. Forgot to do it. I like the compressed air idea too. It's a great idea.
Well, so we've knocked out a lot of the questions that we had here. What about the importance of what I'm seeing is some of the chemistry that you guys have already has surfactants in it.
Yeah.
That's
Correct.
smart.
Majority of it, anything that you see of ours that has the Lysotech on the case.
It'll be Loveland products.
It'll be a sticker on the case and the jug that says Lysotech. If it says Lysotech, then that's our surfactant package already preloaded into that chemistry. So it's clethodim. We have a 2,4-D that's got it in there. We've got the Roundup, the glyphosate that has it. There's a plethora of chemicals that already have our surfactant package.
I think as a company, we pride ourselves on not being a generic company, but we're a branded company, and we stand behind our products. And you can ask him, we have customers that buy our glyphosate because of our surfactant package and all the
stroke over.
all the productivity of it, you know. Whereas they could go buy competitors, and you look at it, and man, looks like water. You're like, is there anything in there?
Right. Right.
Yeah, if
and,
you're,
and
I
look,
mean,
that's the the time, the land cost, the tractor cost, the diesel fuel. I mean, it's worth having a quality product out there.
But we have a whole lineup of nutritionals as well. That where if you got your spray rig and you got it calibrated, and you know, say you may not be set up to be able to drag a fertilizer buggy through the bottom, you could, you know, we could sell nutritionals, liquid potash, liquid phosphorus, all that.
Which is great for wildlife too, because it's fast acting. You know? It really is.
Right. Well, I was just gonna ask. So we've got this little, we got a couple of fertilizers.
Yeah, we got liquid fertilizers. Yeah,
and one that's dry and you mix it in the tank, and one that you pour
one
in.
specific for clover.
Clover. So we see these things. They're landing on the leaves of the plant out there. Foliar is. We see them just green them up so fast. It's just really impressive.
Right.
I'm assuming that, you know, you're getting through the stomata in the leaves, and you're bypassing, like, if it's cold outside or wet. You know, I mean, I think everybody knows putting out bulk granular ag fertilizer is the lowest hole in the bucket.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But all these foliars work great in a pinch.
Absolutely.
And to supplement, it really helps.
Yep.
But there's also some areas you can't get to with that heavy granular stuff.
Right.
So,
you know, we for a long time, and we still doing a lot of cases, like, you know, typical glyphosate might take about 10 days to really see a complete, and I've added some liquid fertilizer, and I can go spray something at my place, and the next weekend when I go back, it is just stone dead. But, you know,
does that add nitrogen to it?
Well, I think the plant takes it up faster, perhaps.
By having the fertilizer with it?
Yes, that's what I've been told. And then we had, you know, Mitt Wardlaw, who's a really smart guy, who's like, hey, dead is dead.
Right.
Gave
they
it
talk
another
about the
week,
efficacy,
and it would still be dead. But for a guy like me, a weekend warrior, when I do it this Saturday, when I go back next Saturday, I want to know what I've done and if I need to do something else. And
typically, the reason that you're seeing that is because the fertilize is
conditioning the water.
It does that, and it's also acting as a surfactant.
It's heating up.
That's what we call heating up.
Making it hotter.
So that plant is letting that fertilize in, and it's carrying that chemical with it, and it gets in the plant faster. It helps it spread. It's just a really oily product.
Yeah.
And oil, you need oil to go to oil. Well, we're taking a water-based solution and spraying it on an oil surface, a waxy surface, and it's just sitting there on the bead, and it takes a minute to spread out and get into the plant. Well, you put fertilizer with it, and that's acting as the surfactant to help it spread out.
I can really tell a difference when I do that, though.
Yep, absolutely you will.
But like Mitt said, eventually dead is dead.
Yeah, 3 more days and then dead.
Right.
And I'm not a chemist, but I believe the nitrogen in the fertilizers also acts like a conditioner. It helps slow down some of that binding up. Like if you've got
ammonium sulfate is
AMS. If you've got bad water that has the whatever's in it that sticks to your product,
50-pound bag of AMS, and
the nitrogen seems to help with that a lot.
Right.
Okay, so we've got a formula. You're going to draw us out a sheet. We're going to take a picture. A guy can download it, go to the show notes.
In the show notes. I don't know
and you
about
can
download,
save
but
that
you
on
can
your
see
phone.
it.
Yeah, they can. That's right.
Yeah.
And that'll be very helpful to all of us.
Yeah.
And then we've gone over kind of the Bubba method, a simple way to do this.
Right.
We've certainly gone over how to clean that unit.
Yep.
And the pros and cons of boomless and boom, we've covered that. What else have we?
I'd love to, and y'all jump in here, Dudley. I know you know this stuff too. There's the 3 or 4 chemicals that a wildlife guy would use and what those applications would be. So
there's a lot.
But
and more.
We primarily use clethodim.
Clethodim's a huge one.
And clover.
Kills grasses.
Yep.
Then obviously Roundup, glyphosate, which is a non-selective, burn down everything kind of thing. Then 2,4-D or 2,4-DB. What's the difference in those, and what are the different applications for those?
2,4-DB is you're going to kill broadleaves in clover. It does not kill clover.
It doesn't kill. It's weak on legumes.
It's weak on legumes.
And it won't kill grasses?
No.
Okay. 2,4-DB.
It will not kill a grass.
2,4-DB.
But it's very weak, like he said, on legumes.
Mm-hmm. It'll burn the heck out of like iron clay peas, and soybeans don't really like it either. But it's great for like clover and alfalfa
and peanuts. They spray a pile of it in peanuts.
Does DB mean something?
Butarac, doesn't it?
The 2,4-DB is just for I don't really know what the B is, but the 2,4-D is short for dichlor something. It's a word about this long.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they just call it 2,4-D. And fun fact, Agent Orange, all it is 2,4-D.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. You know why they called it Agent Orange? It's because it was shipped to Vietnam in an orange barrel.
Ah.
That's the only
There
reason.
used to be a product called 2,4-T that you don't see or hear of anymore. But.
So 2,4-D will help you get rid of broadleafs in clover?
Yep.
Is that right?
2,4-DB.
2,4-D is going to get rid of all your broadleaves.
Yeah, I got you.
And the clover.
Including the clover.
And it doesn't kill grass.
It don't kill grass.
Gotcha.
No, it's a selective herbicide on the opposite side of the spectrum of the select.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I like Imazapyr a lot.
Yeah.
And you're
You
playing
better
that in
be careful
fields?
with that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it just depends on your use.
Are you spraying that for broadleafs?
It'll get broadleafs and grasses, but it's really good at getting rid of some of our invasive grasses we have, like Kogan grass, fescue.
Will it kill clover?
It's weak on legumes as well, but I don't know of anybody that uses it over the top of clover.
Gotcha.
Right.
I'd say trichopyr would be another one we use.
For real brushy, woody broadleaf stuff.
Poison oak, viney stuff, brushy, woody kind of.
I'm using it on kudzu and some privet.
Okay.
Yeah. I've heard of it as 2,4-D on steroids, but I think it's better at waxier leaves, more brushy stuff.
And when you get into the brushier stuff, I would prefer to have dicamba with the 2,4-D dicamba mix with the triclopyr or the remedy.
Mm-hmm. That's got a little bit of soil activity in it as well with the dicamba.
But as soon as it rains, it's gone. But it does. It's one of the best residuals on the market as long as it don't rain.
I want to say I used that on a lot of Sericea lespedeza last summer to get rid of it, or to set it way back.
How you spell that word?
I'm not even gonna try.
Lespodiesel.
Lenny, I think this baby bottle method is. It really seems, that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Bobby, you finna be a granddaddy here shortly.
Yeah, you have plenty of baby
You gonna have
bottles.
plenty of bottles.
How about that?
Old Papa.
Can I borrow one?
Old Papa.
We got rid of ours.
Well, speaking of, you guys brought some measuring
These are great.
cups.
Yes.
And I tell you what, there's looks like there's 6 of them.
Should we give a couple of those away?
So the first 5 people after this that leave a review, it just says something about Nutrien measuring cup. We'll send them one.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
I guess Bobby's gonna keep the 6th one for himself.
Well, we'll leave one here that we got to measure out.
Yeah, he got to measure all your
something.
stuff. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to spray some clover.
So, is there what else we need to be asking?
I mean, is there anything that we hadn't covered?
I think we touched on it.
It's hard to cut. I mean, that we could talk for days about this kind of stuff.
You could talk about chemistry, chemicals, and herbicides. You know, insecticides, everything. It's a whole different conversation all the time. So
Most of your spraying, are you spraying in a Ranger with a cab on it? Or?
Yeah. My Can-Am Defender personally has a cab on it, and
Air conditioning?
No, not quite
Heater?
that much. No.
Radio?
You need to borrow
We do have a radio.
You got a cup holder.
Cup holder, yeah. Pour it apart. And that's another thing. We're talking about your PPE. If you're going to spray on an open cab tractor or a four-wheeler or anything that you're not enclosed with a cab, wear long sleeves, wear your gloves, wear your eye protection.
Yeah.
I mean, just
you never
be
know where that
hesitant.
wind's going to
And when you get done spraying, wash your whole machine off. You know, because if you turn on the end and all of a sudden the wind comes up, you just I mean, you may have to, you're going to look like you get stuck on there, and just wash it off and keep it. You know, because these chemicals can be corrosive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good pointer there for sure.
That's good. Why don't we ask him a trivia question?
All right. Let's line it up.
Dudley has
very, very natural right there.
Yeah.
All right, Dudley. Well, so we're going to ask you. We've got a new partner, Peanut Patch. You guys love boiled peanut.
Oh,
You
yeah.
like
I
cake?
can
You
look
like-
at y'all.
I ain't
and
gonna lie. I come in the room. We was just shooting the breeze, and I seen that over there. I said, "Boy, howdy! I need one of them in my house."
Yeah.
You like the Cajun or the
I
regular?
want one.
I like Cajun.
I like the Cajun too. They're delicious.
Any convenience store.
Yeah,
you
any
cannot
Walmart.
find one.
Yeah.
I mean, so guys, if you're driving by and you go to a convenience store, go get you some of these peanuts.
Yeah, and you
Oh,
can
yeah.
put it in your cup holder on your spray rig.
Yeah, the other cup holder.
Yeah.
All right, so because our internet is down, I was not able to pull a reviewer to give away
Dude,
a prize.
so-
And we were going to give them a Nutrien shirt. So I don't know how we'll do this, but let's just ask them the trivia question, and we won't give away our prizes for this week.
Okay.
We'll give
We'll
two
double
next
up
week.
next
Two
week.
next
Yep,
week.
so
There we
y'all
go.
leave these reviews.
All right, guys. Y'all can work together on this, but you can't call anybody.
They can't phone a friend.
No.
Okay.
This one's too easy.
Oh.
Well, I say that. Among the modern weed control products still in use today, which was the first to be used? And what decade did it get its start?
That don't sound easy to me.
Well, just because I know the answer, it's easy.
Golly. All right, say that again.
Is
All
it
right.
multiple choice?
No, no, no.
Oh,
You're going to have to give some help there.
All right. Among the modern weed control products still in use today, you know, the main herbicides
Right.
we use today,
We've mentioned some of them.
which was the first to be used and when? So, like, was it the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s?
Oh,
And what
man.
was it?
That's a tough question.
That's a very tough one.
My dad farmed in the
I'm gonna say
50s and 60s. I don't think they had
It'll have
chemicals.
to be Triflan or Trifluralin or something.
You're thinking
like that.
too hard. It's not some kind of pre-emerge or anything. It's a post-emergent herbicide.
clethodim.
What's it rhyme with?
It rhymes with a number.
Ooh.
2,4-D.
All right.
Correct.
How about that?
Look at Twinky bringing
When-
in the...
Well, that's half
about
of
the date.
That's half of it.
Well, he said date.
That's your half.
Oh, I'd say
Whenever Vietnam was, man.
yeah, in the
That'd be the 60s? No.
70s. I mean, you need a 1974.
Just the. Well, I think he asked the decade, so a 10-year window.
I would say, yeah. What year?
Well, Vietnam was early 70s, late 60s, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was around.
Yes,
then.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Hey, Richie, are you
Look at. I thought you were asleep.
No, I'm over here paying attention, just soaking it in.
soak it in?
Y'all want me to give you the answer?
Oh,
Might
that'd be
well.
nice.
40s.
40.
Ah.
So
I still get it.
Yeah.
The compound 2,4-D was first synthesized by W.G. Templeman at Imperial Chemical Industries.
My question was going to be, how much does a gallon of water weigh?
And then
easy.
How much does a gallon of water weigh?
it
Look at him. It's going to stuff him.
9 pounds.
Nope.
Yep.
8.3.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8.3.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
right.
go.
And then gasoline is lighter than water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Isn't that
that's
amazing?
right.
So I've got a bonus.
Oh.
And you can redeem yourself, Bryson, here. So this is true or false?
Hold on now. I got the water question
Yeah, he got
right,
the water
boss.
right.
Yeah, well, I wasn't expecting
Calm
that.
down.
This is a double bonus.
All right.
Double bonus. True or false? The inventor of the boom system that we've talked about so much was an Oklahoma farmer named Boomer Thompson. And that's why it's called a boom. Is that true or false?
Wow.
That's pretty-
I'm almost sorry.
Pretty good
That's
question.
got to be true.
Well, let them
I'm
answer.
sorry.
It's got to be. Yeah, I mean,
It's got to be true.
All right.
It is false.
What?
Boomer Thompson. That kind of gave it away.
It's
ain't nobody.
I totally made
Did you
that.
make that
Boomer
shit
soon.
up?
Ain't no boomer. Yeah.
Damn, you got me.
Totally made it up.
Yeah. I don't know who invented the boom, but he was
Not named Boomer.
not named Boomer.
I don't know why I hit the bell there. I think
I did
was
too. I thought I
excited.
got it
I think I
right.
was excited that
That I got
had-
it wrong.
That I had tripped. All right.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, we've learned a lot, and I think this might be a touch confusing at times, but they can go to our show notes and get that
Right.
calculation.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, there's Nutrien Ag Solution stores all over the country. Resources like these guys out there. You know, if you
Exactly.
got questions, this stuff's going to vary, I think, regionally too, to
Yeah.
a certain
Right.
degree. So I mean,
Right.
yeah, the water's not, so
Yep.
check them out.
Well, we appreciate y'all spending your time coming up here today. It wasn't a whole day, I don't think, but we sure appreciate you.
Yeah, we do.
Thank y'all.
Take
Thank y'all
having
for
us.
having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if y'all are, I'm sure y'all going to be rolling back and helping farmers this afternoon. So.
Yeah, it's a little might help them get water off the fields right now, but
Yeah, it's
next
busy out
next week we'll be helping them.
Bryson, you ever listen to our podcast when you're down there working and all?
Well, to be honest, my phone's always ringing. This couch has been over here buzzing the whole time we've been, so I don't get a chance to listen to many podcasts. But
What about
I
at
do
night?
I do listen to y'all's podcast before I listen to anybody else's.
There you go.
What about
Hit
like
the bell.
what about on like a Tuesday night when you're tired, you come in and everything, you might turn on the outdoor
I
channel?
can tell you, Bobby, most Tuesday nights if I'm tired and I come in and it's dark, I don't want to hear anybody talk. I'm talked out for the day.
Especially you.
Well, we got this television show. We spend so much money on this show, and I can't find anybody to watch it.
Somebody's watching it. Richie said somebody's watching it.
Yeah, we got a few viewers here and there.
Oh my goodness! All right. Well, look, this has been a lot of fun.
It is good stuff.
Absolutely.
Dudley, if
Dudley,
you got anything
what's up, Dudley?
else you need to add?
He's got something to say, I can tell.
You may want to cut this out, but may not.
Richie, get ready.
We do have some folks that don't like herbicides out
Yeah,
there.
sure.
And I can understand that. But also, we're using these to get rid of a lot of plants that weren't supposed to be here in the first place.
Yep.
A lot of invasive plants. And, you got to fight fire with fire. And they're just going to keep persisting and getting worse for our grandkids. Or you can make an attempt to get rid of them. None of our native insects or animals really use a lot of these invasive plants. And so if we can use these products to turn the clock back and get rid of a lot of these plants that weren't supposed to be there, our wildlife and insects and everything can begin to flourish again.
Well said.
And so that's something to keep in mind. If you're on the fence about using herbicides, you may want to get around and walk around at your place and see exactly what species of plants you have. You may have some plants that are doing way more detriment to your property than just putting out a chemical that has a really short half-life or whatever to get rid of those. So just something to think about. I figured I'd throw that out there.
Sure. So would you say use responsibly? Is it just
Well, yeah,
I
use
would say-
responsibly. Follow the label.
I would say if you're on the border there about herbicides. Educate yourself.
Yeah.
Talk to professionals. Don't just get on Google and Google this, and the first thing that's going to pop up is this causes blah, blah, blah. Find an educated man at your local university, man or woman, and do your research and be diligent. Take your private application license and be educated on how to use the herbicide properly. I can't tell you how many times that I feel like herbicides are under scrutiny because of misapplication.
That's right.
You know, whether it be a farmer goes spray a field, wind gets up and it kills grandma's tomatoes over there. Well, that's not the chemical's fault. It's a misapplication fault. And I think, you know, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies, and that's with anything. Herbicide is nothing no more than a tool. I mean, for a farmer, conservation, it's whatever. I mean, it's a tool that's in the toolbox, no different than a mechanic in a ratchet or a wrench. You know, it's just and we have to use everything properly.
I don't know how you could do it in the South without it. I mean, I don't. I mean, are you going to plow the ground all the time? You know, then
which is really bad for the soil.
Which is really bad for the ground, you know? I mean, so... Yeah.
Are these homemade jobs where you get a bunch of vinegar and soap and some kind of salt and mix it together? I wouldn't want that on my ground.
No,
you know?
No. Echoing what Twinky said. Proper application.
Yep. Twinky, well said.
Yeah.
Bryson, we've enjoyed you coming up here.
Yeah, we'll meet you at Northgate for lunch. Yeah.
That'll work.
We're told you are quite the expert at a lot of this stuff. So.
Well, I don't know about that.
We're going to put you through the paces.
You don't have to be the best, just the most available.
That's right.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Richie, we got anything else we need to touch on?
No, we've hit everything.
All right. What about John? You got anything over there? No.
Yep. All right. Why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here,
I'm
Richie.
a wet-hot sportsman after wild game.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.